For over 4 decades, Beyond Pesticides has worked with tens of thousands of people in the United States and globally to fight for healthy air, water, land, and food. We forge ties with nonprofit and volunteer organizations, local governments, and forward-thinking corporations. We work with people who understand the importance of vibrant ecosystems on which all life depends. They understand the urgent need to end toxic pesticide use and adopt healthy practices. We are leaders. Our collective community-based work to advance organic land management, whether in agriculture or public and residential spaces, has and continues to inform and inspire policies that embrace a precautionary approach. Simply put, the data shows that we do not need toxic chemicals to achieve food productivity and quality of life goals. We are grassroots. We empower community-level action to influence management decisions that are being made daily by local governments, school and park districts, private institutions, and households. We are scientific. We elevate and make accessible the science that calls for an urgent societal response to health and environmental threats, and make it available through our unique online databases and daily reporting. We institutionalize change. In the last several years, local organizations working with Beyond Pesticides have successfully adopted model laws to curb the use of pesticides in public and residential landscapes. A landmark law in New York City highlights the need to protect people of color communities who suffer disproportionate harm from pesticides. This racial injustice is pervasive in current policies, which ignore elevated risk factors in general and conditions affecting farm workers who harvest the food we eat and landscapers who manage our city and county parks. We are hands-on action. We bring the voices of scientists and practitioners of organic to community land and building management practices. Beyond fighting individual pesticides and chemical trespass, we embrace a holistic strategy to eliminate toxic pesticides with a systems approach that respects the fragile web of life, from the soil microbiota to our gut microbiome. We see a future. Beyond Pesticides shares the vision of people and communities in seeking to ensure a future that protects health and sustains life. We are facing existential crises, the climate crisis, biodiversity collapse, and severe public health threats from cancer to neurological, reproductive, and endocrine system effects. To reverse these threats, we advance model organic solutions that eliminate billions of pounds of fossil fuel-based pesticides and synthetic fertilizers and nurture biological systems that take dangerous pollutants out of our environment. We are transformational. With a 40-year track record of successfully advancing systemic change, we know that the solutions are within our grasp. We are honored to work collaboratively to make this happen, now and for future generations.
I could complain about the lesions and the pain or when I sit down or when I walk, but I don't complain. So it's like I feel good, but I deal with it, day to day because I've had it for a long time.
The doctor told me I was running out of TikToks. Life coming to an end and everything soon could stop. I'm dealing with this cancer and my case is...
Duane Johnson worked for Benicia School District in 2012, becoming the integrative pest manager. Wisner says a large part of Johnson's job was to spray Roundup, often 50 to 60 gallons at a time. After 2 years, Johnson developed lesions on his body, later diagnosed as non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
This is what a lesion looks like. That's a lesion, right? This is a lesion.
The plaintiff's opening statement focusing on choice. Attorney Brent Wisner telling the jury Monsanto took away his client's ability to choose by not disclosing the potential dangers of Roundup weed killer.
If you don't give someone a choice and somebody gets hurt because of that, or God forbid somebody actually gets cancer, then I personally believe, and I think you will as well, that you should be responsible for the consequences of that.
cancer. And my case is rare, lesions all over my skin, it's everywhere.
I have this track called Not Your Time. I brought in real musicians from real times. Rusty Allen from Graham Central Station, and he played also with Sly Stone. You know, these guys are real guys, but the way they played that song, what I brought them is not what it is now.
Doctors on the payroll, they chose a close eye. They really don't care if we live or die.
The jury had deliberated for 2.5 days after 2 months of trial proceedings. The jury finding that weed killers manufactured by Monsanto, Roundup, and Ranger Pro were substantial factors in causing harm to him.
When I heard about your dad, okay, let's check this one out. Ground war. Yeah, it's crazy because actually if you think about it, there's actually a war against the ground, which is the soil. And you're killing that thing because nothing comes out of putting chemicals on the soil. A lot of people that look at documentaries or whatever, they don't go tell the next person, but they think that you informed also. So just informing people is just, it's almost like godlike. It's like you're giving something to people from a good place. You can turn a bad situation into a great thing. It's beautiful.
The majority of seeds used for corn and soybeans and other food crops are coated with toxic pesticides, insecticides, and fungicides. These toxic chemicals emerge from the seeds into the plant and invade the soil biology and surrounding waterways, causing indiscriminate poisoning and contamination. When insects feed, they get sick and die. The most commonly used insecticide on coated seeds are called neonicotinoids, or neonics. Plants thrive in biologically active soil. Healthy soil contains beneficial bacteria and fungi that help feed and keep plants resilient and strong. Neonic seeds attack this ancient balance of biological life. An EPA review shows neonic residues in streams, rivers, and lakes above hazard levels for freshwater invertebrates, important to the food web for aquatic organisms. The pesticides upset the biodiversity of the entire ecosystem, water bodies, and land areas. As the plant grows, the chemical that coats the seed makes its way throughout the plant, into the pollen, nectar, and sap droplets. That's why these are known as systemic pesticides. Plants not grown from coated seeds may be sprayed with the same pesticides or drenched at their roots. With this application, the chemical also travels through the plant. These pesticides make the plants poisonous to organisms that feed on them: bees, butterflies, birds, and bats, pollinators. They are indiscriminately poisoned when they forage through fields and gardens. Since the introduction of neonics, honeybees have suffered dramatic declines, as much as 44% in a season. Some beekeepers have experienced total collapse of their hives. And farmers suffer. One neonic reduced beetle populations by 60%, allowing pest slugs to flourish. The result? Decreased soybean density and yield. An EPA review shows no yield benefit for farmers who use neonic seeds. Yet with increased consolidation in the pesticide and seed industry, the seed choices for farmers are more and more limited. Fact: honeybees and native bees are critical to pollination. 1 out of every 3 bites of food we eat requires pollination, as do the majority of flowers. According to the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, of the 100 crop species which provide 90% of global food, 71 are pollinated by bees. The decline of the bee population has had serious economic consequences as well. The total global economic value of pollination services is estimated to be 9.5% of global food production, or $190 billion in the US, with $15 billion from domestic crops that are directly reliant on honeybees and $20 to $30 billion dependent on all pollinators. Despite all this, the chemical industry defends the use of neonics. It claims neonics reduce pesticide spraying, which in turn limits pesticide exposure to applicators and drift onto non-target areas. An acknowledgement that pesticides move through the air, causing widespread contamination. The chemical industry blames parasites, not its products, for the decline in bee populations. But studies show bees are much more vulnerable to the threat from parasites and diseases after exposure to systemic pesticides. While habitat loss is also a problem for all wildlife, planting sites with neonic-treated seeds turn habitats into killing fields. What you can do. There is an alternative. A solution that is effective, productive, economically viable, and sustainable. And it doesn't require yet another new toxic pesticide or genetically engineered crop. Organic land management. It respects the environment and the complexities and benefits of the ecosystem. So, support organic agriculture and garden organically. It's important. Eat with a conscience. Find out how your food is grown. Buy certified organic seeds. The goal: protect biodiversity in agriculture, gardening, and management of our parks and playgrounds with policies and practices. Our future depends on our respect for nature and the complex biological relationships that sustain life. For more information, visit beyondpesticides.org.